Hello and welcome to another TV Party Tonight Extra. This is Boxing Live Commentary. I'm your host, the mandated reporter, and frankly, I'm mortified, Mr. Mark Radulich. We are doing commentary over Premier Boxing Championship, Leo Santa Cruz versus, well, it's no longer Miguel Flores. He's out with an ankle injury. So it's Rafael Rivera, if I remember correctly. And joining me to keep me on track tonight, I've got two co-hosts with me. They're going to take over a majority of the talking because God knows I'm still sick. Ladies and gentlemen, first, it's Mr. Toxic Masculinity, the punchy pugilist, Pat Mullin. How do you do, sir?
Good evening, Mark. Good evening, viewers. I do this not because I want to. I do this because you want me to.
And this next gentleman finally has a rare Saturday night off. So we're making him work anyway, because that's how we do. He's not covering MMA tonight. He's joining us as our third chair to cover this boxing event. Ladies and gentlemen, it's the soulless robot himself, Robert Winfree. How do you do, sir?
Oh, not too bad. I think you gave me whatever you had, though. Got to throw up a couple of times this morning. That was fun.
Oh, good. This is definitely what our listeners want to hear. How is it that I gave you whatever I have from Tampa to Utah? How did I somehow give it to you through the microphone?
Yes.
Madness.
Haven't we established this already? Like I gave you some mild cold a few weeks back.
And we just keep trading it back and forth. Maybe we should stop doing
Something
shows
like
together.
Madness.
I saw Alita Battle Angel today, by the way, Robert. Can't wait to talk to you about it.
I haven't seen it yet, but I will on Tuesday, and I'm sure I'll have thoughts.
You will definitely have thoughts. But it wasn't too bad. I don't want to give away the show here, but I mean it was fine. All right, let's get into our boxing event here. Pat, what can you tell us about this man stepping in on 3 weeks' notice, Rafael Rivera?
Rafael Rivera is a spoiler. And what I mean by that is he's the fighter who is not supposed to win. And he's been in that scenario before. He famously last year beat a very highly touted prospect from PBC named Joet Gonzalez. He was giving up 8 inches in reach to Gonzalez. Gonzalez, undefeated fighter. And so, of course, Rivera went in there, out-hustled him, outworked him, was the aggressor, and took the decision from him and upset the apple cart, so to speak. He followed that up with a quick win over a fighter named Jose Ramos with a losing record. And just so happened to be the right guy at the right time when Leo Santa Cruz needed an opponent to step up and step in on short notice. And Rivera did it. Rivera, he came in, and we're going to see what he has to offer here. A lot of people, again, like I said, felt he beat Joet Gonzalez. I did. I thought it was very clear, but he did not get the decision. But he'll get rewarded anyway here with a world title shot against one of the pound-for-pound best fighters of the last decade.
I believe he is the WBO featherweight champion, correct? WBA.
And holds the super designation, not as in the weight class super featherweight, but as in he held more than 2 championships, and so the WBA did not recognize him as their regular champion. He was a super champion.
So many belts, so little time. All right, Robert, are you familiar with either one of these two fighters?
I've seen a couple of Santa Cruz fights. Nothing that really – I couldn't tell you anything specifically about them, but I know Pat has spoken very highly of him in the past, and that usually gets me to at least check out a fight or two of somebody's. And, I mean, one of the interesting things to me about this is, again, the short notice nature of this. That's something of a rarity in boxing. The majority of the time, if one participant in a main event gets injured and falls out of a fight, they just reschedule the fight for later, as opposed to finding somebody to step in like this.
All right, and we are underway. First round of 12 in this championship fight. Leo Santa Cruz versus Rafael Rivera. Pat, what can we expect from these two gentlemen in terms of fight styles?
Well, Leo Santa Cruz oftentimes comes in with a height and reach advantage and very seldom uses it. He's an action fighter. He's aggressive. He wants his opponent to fight at a pace that they can't match because he's known as maybe the hardest working fighter during a fight. He throws punches in bunches. He's thrown over 1,000 punches in multiple world title fights, and we're going to look for that here. for Rivera, Rivera's going to have to find openings in those flurries and look for them and score. He's not going to match Santa Cruz in activity levels, and for a guy who tends to fight aggressive, he's giving up size and power to Santa Cruz. The way to combat that, he has to find those openings, score, get out, and restart.
All right. We see some early exchanges here on, as you were saying, Leo Santa Cruz, so far landing 5 punches to Rivera's 3.
And you'll see with Santa Cruz, we talked about the height and reach advantage, not something he presses. He wants to get inside and mix it up. He generally will throw 2-3 jabs just to close the distance and get in on his opponent. They're not authoritative. They're occupy jabs. They're meant to occupy the defense so he can pick his spots and look for his beautiful little sneak right hand that he tends to throw right over a guy's left shoulder and land on the chin.
You can kind of see Rivera already looking for a counter for those kind of, again, just space-occupying jabs. He's shown the counter overhand right a few times already. So he's clearly done enough of his homework to at least have figured out a few of the habits this guy has.
And we see another exchange there. So far, nothing too devastating on either side. We've got 11-8 Santa Cruz Rivera in terms of punches landed.
The one thing I don't like I'm seeing from Rivera, and it's easier said than done, he's showing Santa Cruz a lot of respect early. And even when he does throw an occasional good body shot, good counter shot, he's backing up and backing up and backing up and letting Santa Cruz dictate the distance where the fight's taking place. And when you let a guy with not only the superior firepower do that, but just a longer reach who can exploit that along the ropes, you're really asking for trouble.
He seems to be backing up and then just trying to either close distance into the pocket when Santa Cruz is coming forward or just looking straight to counter. And I don't think that's going to work out very well for him in the long term if this round is a great indicator of things.
Earlier in the night, we had a third-round KO win for Fundaro. Our co-main went the distance. So it's been, so far as production and interest level, it's been a pretty fun night of fights here on Premier Boxing Championship on Fox as we end our first round here. All right, what do you think's happening in the corner here for Mr. Santa Cruz, Pat?
I would guarantee you his father is telling him he wants to see him get hit a little bit less because he did absorb some shots from Rivera there. And they showed a graphic before this fight started. Of Rivera's 17 knockouts that he's scored in 26 victories, all 3 of them has come in the first 3 rounds. So if he's going to get you by knockout, he's going to do it early. So they would probably like Leo to lean a little bit more on his jab, stay out of those exchanges, more initiate and get out type movement from Leo as opposed to absorbing shots in return, even if he closes the exchange, which he did the round.
I think we can all agree that first round went to Leo Santa Cruz.
Yeah, but those last 15 seconds, Rivera turned things up a little bit and was able to show he's still he's here and he's in the fight a little bit more consistently than he had previously. And Cruz, Santa Cruz takes the round, but I agree with Pat, especially about the corner advice. He's got to kind of avoid a lot more of those, absorb in the old pitch and catch kind of style of striking in the pocket. That's not going to service him well through the first few rounds.
All right, we are into round 2 here. We started off with a little bit of a firefight there. Right now, they are almost going head-to-head. Yep, we have another series of exchanges where Rafael Rivera just stands there in the pocket and trades with him.
Yeah, you're going to look for, again, Santa Cruz is touching him with that uppercut on the inside right through the guard, and Rivera's not making an adjustment to move his head off of that. What you're going to see Santa Cruz look to do is use that uppercut to set up the left hook upstairs and follow it with the left hook to the body, which is the old Mickey Ward combination. Touch him to the head, touch him to the body. And Santa Cruz does that maybe better than anybody in boxing right now.
For a guy with the reach advantage that Santa Cruz has here, he does a lot of really good infighting.
Oh, yeah. He's made his bread and butter off of that infighting. And it's funny. He was criticized as a guy who maybe was hiding the fact that he couldn't box. And yet against Abner Mares in their first fight, over the second half of the fight, he adjusted and began boxing from a distance, utilizing that jab and landing from the outside and Morris couldn't find his range, and he took that fight by a pretty clear margin once that 6th round and on rolled.
He is really looking for a home for that right uppercut.
Yeah, he's dialed into something that Rivera, some kind of tendency Rivera has. I don't know if it's the way he keeps his elbows away from his body necessarily, or if it's when they get into the infighting that he's just not getting his triceps and his elbows properly in front to block that. Is more concerned about the hooks,
The ref didn't
which will
stop.
of course open up the hooks.
The ref didn't stop it, but that first shot to the body there looked a little low.
Oh, it was most definitely low, but it was in the midst of an exchange. So he might give a verbal command, but he's not going to stop the action unless anybody really sold the effects of that low blow or it was particularly egregious. I like it. Get inside, let them fight inside.
Ugh, low blows. Too many. Yeah, sorry, just completely unrelated, but like the Bellator main event from last night ended on the first kick Matt Mitrione threw. That was a really horrific low blow to Karatanov.
I even forgot that was happening.
I only know about it because I saw the reaction to like, oh, this another like horribly Bellator thing. Hey, 15 seconds and we end on a foul.
Yeah, that makes sense. Now you see this
that uppercut, man.
Yeah.
Rivera has to do something about that, or he's just going to keep getting cleaned up. I mean, he's landing it both when they're in prolonged exchanges and in infighting in the head-to-head scenario. He's also catching him with it when he disengages. He's got to do a better job of minding that right hand.
What you're seeing is Santa Cruz now is starting again to turn up the volume and turn up the pace, and Rivera's having a hard time matching it for two reasons. One is the disadvantage of height and reach. Two is that he's starting to wait on Santa Cruz to finish rather than punch with him.
Yeah, his counter game is a lot less simultaneous. It's a lot more wait and counter than simultaneous counter.
All right, we are moving into round 3. That's 2 rounds for Leo Santa Cruz, though hard-fought rounds. Definitely a lot of back and forth, a lot of exchanges. It's the kind of fight you want to see on national television. A nice little firefight.
Yeah, this one's again like it started out. I think Rivera might have thought that the first round was too much of an indicator of his ability to succeed in the pocket, and he's kind of gone back to that a bit too much. And Santa Cruz is really starting to get the better of him there as he makes small adjustments to what Rivera's doing, and Rivera's not adjusting back.
And what we're going to see is whether Rivera can adapt to that right uppercut that Santa Cruz has continually split his guard with inside, or if he's going to continue to, and there we see it land again, if he's going to continue to allow Santa Cruz to do it, and Santa Cruz starts putting a little bit more on it, knowing that that's a punch he can get home almost every time he throws it.
I don't think he can miss it at this point. I mean,
interestingly enough,
it takes effort for him to miss that uppercut at this point.
The unofficial card gave the first round to Rivera, the second round to Santa Cruz.
Who's doing the unofficial card?
I believe it's Larry Hazard.
Yeah, he's not one of Larry's better unofficial scorecards then.
I don't have a huge issue with it. And here we're seeing a little bit more from Rivera in terms of not waiting on Santa Cruz. He's starting to turn on his punches as soon as Santa Cruz steps into range. And even if he's not always landing cleanly, he's landing hard enough to get some respect.
Yeah, if Rivera's got a shot here, it's going to be because he's just got enough power in the sense that he's not going to overwhelm Santa Cruz with volume. He's clearly not the volume striker in this equation. But if he lands clean, he can change the dynamic. It's just he's having a really hard time landing clean punches. He's clubbing him. There's some thudding power there, but he's not finding the defensive openings consistently enough.
All right, we've got Leo Santa Cruz with 19 landed, 58 thrown with 33%, 7 landed, 32 thrown with 22% for Rivera.
What I like in this round from what I've seen from Santa Cruz is an adjustment in his footwork. He'll really quickly feint, throw, step back, step out, and bait Rivera into charging in forward. And he's already turned and able to turn off the angle where he can hit Rivera with 2 shots, and Rivera is not in position to punch back effectively.
He's turned him a couple of times just in this round. I think Rivera's game plan as far as footwork goes is too much back up, get Santa Cruz to overcommit stepping forward, and then turn on him instead of being more proactive about it. And I think Santa Cruz might have a read on that as far as the ring generalship goes.
I tell you, Rivera's landed that left a few times, though, but it doesn't seem to have much of an effect on Santa Cruz.
It's not landing as clean as it sounds it's landing, is part of the problem. Santa Cruz's right is in pretty good defensive position, but there's enough force behind it from Rivera to still, move him around even though it's mostly blocked. Really, Rivera might be better served to go to the uppercut. He's got Santa Cruz getting more of a high guard when he tries to engage now.
Rivera very active in that round. Definitely taking it to Santa Cruz, though Santa Cruz might be outclassing him as we end round 3.
What I'd like to see from Leo Santa Cruz is he's starting to dial up his body shots with a little more mustard on them now. I'd really like to see him commit more of his offense there, because it's pretty clear Rivera can take a good shot upstairs, but I think he'll falter, especially based on his track record, if you attack him to the body more. And, this is a guy who hasn't ever been stopped. He's been in with good punchers. He hasn't been in with someone the level of Santa Cruz. So I want to see that body work come into play to try to slow him down and maybe take the wind out of him and take the steam off of those punches where Leo can really open up.
So we're in a theater, we're in a concert venue tonight, not a typical sports arena like you would normally see. Any thoughts on that, guys? I mean, it's sort of a weird thing that I picked up on earlier, that they're basically, they shoved a ring into a concert venue for this. Is this just because they don't think they could have sold enough tickets for your typical sports arena in the Los Angeles area?
Did they move it based on the... Oh, God, that's gotta suck. I mean, there's so much of the audience that's only going to get a single angle on that. Anyway, I imagine they shifted that... Did they shift that around after the main event changed?
No, this was the booked venue.
Always the booked venue, wow.
Yeah, Leo Santa Cruz hasn't ever drawn a sellout crowd, unfortunately. Even when he fought Abner Mares, which was an LA versus LA battle, they had Staples Center. They drew good but didn't sell it out. And in other fights, like super fights with Carl Frampton, in Barclays Center where they could have potentially sat 15,000 people, they sat 9,000 and change. So great fighter but underwhelming draw. This is kind of the venue he's going to be fighting in. And now we're seeing some more of those body shots I asked for.
He's doubling up on that jab, showing it high and then sending it low, and Rivera's biting on it every time at the moment.
And you look at Rivera. Rivera does not seem as willing to punch his way in. He wants to kind of just wade in, and that's going to open up Santa Cruz to counter and turn him and look for openings as he comes in. And there's that sneak right hand over the top.
He's either trying to wade forward or get Santa Cruz to really close the distance for him, and that's just not working out.
As we see Leo Santa Cruz look for a way inside again. He's throwing left and rights. I'm waiting for Rivera to jump inside again and start winging punches. There it is.
Yeah, and Rivera's not trying to, when he does try to punch his way in, he's not jabbing with Santa Cruz. He tries to throw that lead hook in, and you're going to see Leo start timing it and scoring his right hand either right behind the hook or right after the hook.
Yeah, Rivera's game plan seems to be, I'm going to throw as many power punches as I can, hope something lands, and I knock this guy out early.
Yeah, Rivera's hooks are getting sloppier already, and I mean we're only in round 4, but they're starting to wing a little bit and getting too much arc to them. Unless he's doing that intentionally, and I can't understand why he would at this juncture. There's not a whole lot of benefit to them the way he's been arcing them more than he has to.
And now Santa Cruz is also really throwing just almost exclusively at this point to the body. You'll see Rivera's elbows very wide away from his body. That's going to open things up, and Santa Cruz, a master infighter, is going to take that opening.
Yeah, he's been. I mean, even just the jab to the chest at distance seems to be giving Rivera a little bit of distance closing problems.
Pat, talk to me about Leo Santa Cruz's footwork there, especially towards the end of that round, as Rivera came forward, was throwing power punches, and it seemed to me that he was using his footwork there to easily evade those punches.
Yeah, part of what Rivera's problem is that, again, without jabbing his way in and being the shorter man giving it away, his chest movements will give away which way he's coming, whether he's throwing his right hand, whether he's throwing his left hand, whether he's looking to step off to a particular side. And once Leo sees that and gets a read on that, he's able to correctly move away from it and counter on the other side of it. He's also been able to feint, draw that movement out of Rivera, and then take the offensive lead because he's got Rivera frozen for a second and favoring a side, and that allows Leo to get off two, three shot combinations and then get out of the way.
Hey, Ray Mancini on the analyst desk. Good for him.
That's a guy that Rivera could take note from and how he should start approaching this fight.
No kidding. That or Duran. I mean, just get a jab going. That's one of the most underappreciated aspects of Roberto Duran's game was the way he was able to jab just to close distance on guys who were a little bit bigger than he was. I mean, Tyson had kind of the same thing. Tyson had a severely underappreciated jab because it was just set up, but without it, nothing else he does really works as well.
As we move into round 5 of 12 here, again, the fighters take center stage right in the middle of the ring.
We talk about Ray Mancini, and Santa Cruz reminds me of a less powerful but quicker version of Alexis Arguello in that despite a tremendous height and reach advantage, he prefers to do his fighting on the inside, but at the same time, he still sees those immediate openings for counter shots and can drop you so quickly just because you don't see the counter shot he's throwing.
Yeah, that right now from Santa Cruz over the top is starting to get in there a little bit more consistently.
All right, we see the hazard scorecard here. Those last 3 rounds have gone to Santa Cruz. We're at 39-37 unofficially.
I can live with it.
And I think each successive round has been won by a greater margin than the prior rounds. The first round, you can make a case for Rivera. You can make a case for it being even. But I think each successive round, we've seen more from Santa Cruz really separating himself from Rafael Rivera.
We are definitely on our way to a unanimous victory for Canelo.
Shut up.
I have to make that joke once every fight.
I might take minor issue with what Pat said specifically. I think the third round was the one where that felt like kind of Rivera's last gasp in a lot of respects. Like, this is the last time I'm really going to have everything I've got. So he really went after it, but he was still outstruck by a wide enough margin that it should have gone to Santa Cruz, and in all likelihood did.
And again, with Santa Cruz, a tall guy who fights on the inside, a lot of people will criticize a lack of head movement. But at the same time, you won't see a guy more often put his hands in better defensive position than Santa Cruz. And that's just a very basic fundamental approach. And it's arguably more effective to protect a taller fighter fighting on the inside than relying on head movement.
Oh, yeah, especially if you're taller. You wind up ducking into punches as often as you get away from them. And you don't really want to lean back either because that just brings your chin up in the air. So good positional fundamentals will do him a world of good that, just a lot of head movement against smaller guys wouldn't necessarily work as well. I mean, for another MMA comparison, Alexander Gustafsson has the weirdest head movement in the world unless he's fighting someone his size when everything starts working.
So we saw a lot of action.
Yes, we did. As we close out on that round, Pat, I go back to what you said at the beginning, that Leo Santa Cruz was going to push the pace of the fight, that he was going to force Rafael Rivera to try to match him. And I'll tell you what, as we go into this next round, it's looking like Rafael Rivera is able to keep up with Leo Santa Cruz punch for punch. Though according to the official scorecard, he is out punching him 130-74.
What I also want you to look for in those exchanges is, from what I saw in the last round, he may have been throwing punches, but those punches did not have those same thud or impact that they had 2 to 3 rounds ago. And Santa Cruz evaded nearly all of the final exchange there because the punches are coming much slower.
Yeah, Rivera's arms are definitely slowing down. Those are feeling real heavy right about now.
And it's twofold. Part of it, yes, is the pace that Mark brought up that Leo Santa Cruz basically forces you to fight at. But again, we've seen more of a commitment to him ripping very, very devastating hooks to the body. That double jab that Rob talked about, the up-down jab that Rivera has been open for, has been landing. And when he lands that, he lands it in that sternum area. One good shot to the sternum can completely take your wind away.
If you've never been hit really hard in the solar plexus, that spot, that little nub like right under your sternum, that really sucks.
So I saw something from Rafael Rivera there that I hadn't really seen for most of this fight. He actually backed up. Leo Santa Cruz came forward, and Rafael Rivera got on his bicycle and started to evade him instead of stepping into the pocket and throwing punches.
And what that means is Leo Santa Cruz is starting to hurt Rafael Rivera.
Yeah, if he's not willing to exchange in the way that is basically his only ticket to victory. I mean, he's not going to win a boxing match by trying to move around this guy.
We're at the center of the ring again, and Leo Santa Cruz starts to inch forward.
Ooh, that was a good right. Yeah, Rivera's footwork is also starting to fall off a little bit here. He was clearly the less fleet of foot fighter from the beginning because he got turned so often. But again, I think a lot of his game plan around his footwork centered on getting Cruz to close distance and then trying to turn from there. And once Santa Cruz stopped doing that, especially against the ropes, when they're in open space, he can move to counter. If you watch the first couple of rounds, a lot of the times Rivera would commit to trying to turn an angle was when he'd get to the ropes and then turn Cruz into the ropes. With his motion, Cruz is not even getting this fight close to the ropes anymore, so he's been able to maintain a mobility advantage pretty consistently.
He snuck one in on Rivera right between the mitts, made Rivera look a little cross-eyed for a moment.
Yeah, he's looking to both turn this up in terms of volume and punching intensity at the moment. There's a non-trivial chance he gets this over with in the next 4 rounds or so.
He has thrown just about double the punches. Landed 164 to 85.
And again, you're not seeing a whole lot from Rivera in return to, one, force Santa Cruz to stop punching, or even just to get some breathing room to get Santa Cruz off of him. And it's really, Rivera will throw 1, maybe 2 shots, and then back away and not punch again. Maybe because he doesn't have just the wind to, and Santa Cruz is really loading up on these body shots as Rivera walks in on him.
Yeah, that left is getting further and further out for more and more power as Santa Cruz is digging that into his midsection.
And there's that sneak right hand over the top on the replay. He got Rivera to feint and move. Rivera dropped his left, and he got that right hand in twice. It's Santa Cruz's best punch by far.
Yeah, at this point, Rivera is basically just holding on for the last 30 seconds of any given round when he can try to flurry and maybe get lucky. But outside of that, he's getting significantly outclassed down the stretch. And I don't know if it's a combination of the short notice and the body work, or if you can give more credit to one or the other. But it's clear he's not at all the same guy he was early, whereas Santa Cruz is much closer to that form than Rivera is.
There's talk of, should Leo Santa Cruz win this fight, which it looks very much like he's going to, that he will move up in weight once again and challenge Gervonta Davis for the WBA super duper featherweight championship.
And we are into round 7 here.
That'd be an interesting fight. I mean, Gervonta Davis is another guy who kind of fades a little bit. He's got great hand speed, but he also does a lot of his best work early. And his gas tank might be, especially against the pace of someone like Santa Cruz, might be a bit of a point of contention for the fight.
He's also a southpaw.
All right, Leo Santa
True.
Cruz places a right there on Rivera. Rivera has no answer. Throws a lot of leather, but nothing lands.
Yeah, again, he's just slowing down as the fight goes on, and at this point, Santa Cruz has a really good read on him generally. Even when he's landing, and put that in air quotes, most of these are blocked from Rivera.
Leo Santa Cruz is just stalking him around the ring now. You see, as you guys are pointing out, a lot of the mustard is off of Rivera's punches. He's not as aggressive as he once was. He's not stepping into the pocket. He's just kind of fighting defensively, which is not going to get him a win in this fight.
He's just not good enough.
And the funny thing is, this is a slow pace for Leo Santa Cruz.
That's the crazy thing.
Again, in 12-round fights, he's gone multiple times, well over 1,000 punches thrown, and he's still finding a home for that right uppercut up the middle.
Seems like every time Rivera drops forward, he gets hit with that uppercut.
It's because every time he drops forward, he's getting hit with the uppercut. I mean, that's not just a seems like. That is pretty much literal truth at this point.
Okay.
He's a poor judge of distance, and Santa Cruz, again, despite being an infighter, deceptive dimensions, which allows him to throw those punches from the angles that realistically wouldn't land from a guy who normally fights you at that range, but because Santa Cruz is taller, has longer reach, he can throw that uppercut further out, and it will land.
He has thrown. He has landed 100 more punches than Rivera at 191 to 90. Go ahead, Robert.
I was just going to say, Rivera's really not. The closest thing he's come to adjusting to that uppercut is dropping his left arm into more of a shoulder roll position, but he's not actually shoulder rolling behind it, so that's letting Santa Cruz catch him with that right. I mean, all he has to do is show the uppercut, and that opens up then the overhand as again, just feint, come with the overhand, and he's hitting him every time. Yeah, those body shots are adding up. You can see the defensive posture of Rivera breaking down with each one.
And Santa Cruz ended that round popping him with a jab that snapped his head back.
Yeah, he's driving a railroad spike with that thing at this point. It's not just occupying space anymore.
All right, so as we take a break here, we'll be back in a few weeks to do some more boxing coverage here on the Radulich and Broadcasting Network. We've got, let's see here, in the month of March, we've got maybe Sean Porter versus Dennis Ugas, which will also be on Fox. That's coming to you from the MGM Grand in Vegas. Certainly a bigger arena than we have here. In the month of April, we don't really have anything listed currently, but on May 4th, our friend Canelo is back. Saul Alvarez versus Daniel Jacobs, and that'll be on DAZN. I don't know if anyone's got that streaming service yet, but we're going to give it a shot there at the T-Mobile Arena in Las Vegas. We'll call the action on DAZN. And just announced, Pat's very excited about this, the day before my birthday. Happy birthday to me. Anthony Johnson.
Anthony Joshua.
Sorry, Joshua. Anthony Joshua versus Jarrell Miller on DAZN, June 1st.
Real heavyweights.
Yeah.
Once again, Deontay Wilder continues to duck Anthony Joshua.
So does Tyson Fury, for that matter.
I don't think Fury really wants to fight anymore. He does the attraction thing at this point. I mean, God bless him. The guy got screwed by the judges in that Wilder fight. He should have won handily.
And if you'd like to hear mine and Mark's live commentary of that, that is available.
Right here on the Radulich and Broadcasting Network. And we are in round 8.
I still can't believe that Tyson Fury got up after that left hook from Wilder, though. That was insane.
Wilder doesn't hit as hard after the 4th round.
Also true.
Look at this fight now, and we saw Rivera come out with a little bit of fire to start this round. He ran out and kind of just threw a good 4 or 5 punch combination, landed 2 of them to just try to get himself not necessarily back in the fight at this point, but just maybe just get some kind of momentum that he thought maybe he could work off of. And he's thrown a little bit more, and I don't know. He's still just backing up at this point. He really doesn't seem to have a lot left. As I say that, he starts punching.
A lot of what it feels like he spent the last couple of rounds maybe kind of gathering his wind a little bit, pacing himself so that he wouldn't just be a punching bag at this point. But he's also doing a lot of, first 30-second, last 30-second fighting, as opposed to just consistent, 10-second to 10-second over the course of the entire round, and which is what Santa Cruz is doing masterfully at this point. Good grief. He's thrown 700-plus punches. As Leo Santa Cruz. That is...
26% landed.
Who cares? If you're throwing 700, you can land 26 and still do fine. My shoulders hurt just watching this guy's volume.
Rafael Rivera just took one in the gut there.
He's just kind of getting picked apart at this point rather methodically. He's dropping his lead. Yeah, he's finally starting to try and adjust to the uppercut, but all he's doing is dropping his lead forearm down in a sort of intercepting position and leaving himself open for the right over the top. And Santa Cruz now just basically has his choice of what weapon he wants to use to hit this guy with.
I will say this for Rivera. Prior to this round, I was questioning why his corner would allow him to continue fighting. But he showed a little bit in that round where he's not completely beaten. I'm very impressed with his will to come back and fight in this round. And at times he was effective. He wasn't necessarily winning, but he was effective. And for somebody who I was counting out at that point in the fight, I give him a lot of credit.
He still both wants it mentally and has, again, we've talked about his physical slowing down, but he's still got the wherewithal to actually fight. So I agree with you. A lot of credit to him. A pretty good body to head hook combination there to close out that round. That said, if he strings together a couple of more rounds like, round 6 or so, his corner probably ought to consider stopping it just because, what's the point? It's not like he's being embarrassed necessarily, but if all he's going to do is keep getting hit and his chances of winning keep getting slimmer and slimmer, save your guy from getting hit in the head too much.
And for those of you who were in that pool, Fernando Vargas is alive. I just saw him.
Damn it to hell.
Oh.
That Spence and Garcia fight could be interesting.
That's going to be a fight of the year candidate. Two of the 5 best pound-for-pound fighters in the world. And boy, oh boy, did he just find the home for that little sneak right hand again, Leo Santa Cruz.
Yeah, again, it's kind of sad that the only adaptation Rivera could think of by the time he tried to adapt to the uppercut was just dropping the lead forearm down the way he did, because it just leaves that side of his chin open, especially because he's not actually shoulder rolling. He's literally just dropping his hand lower.
And speaking of right hands, always fun to see the hitman, Thomas Hearns, at ringside.
Good old Tommy Hearns.
And now we're seeing a little bit more activity from Santa Cruz on the inside than we did last round. Rivera, not a tremendous amount in return, may have again used whatever reserves he had in the 8th to try to rally back. And Santa Cruz
he's paying for that flurry right about now.
Yeah, Santa Cruz now in a position where he can almost do whatever he wants. He picked him off like a laser with that jab when, again, Rivera tried to just bull his way in and wade in without punching his way in.
So if you're Leo Santa Cruz at this point, you have the fight on the scorecards. This guy doesn't have the power at this point, this late in the game, to knock you out. Do you take these next couple of rounds off and just sort of get on your bicycle and wait the 3 minutes out, or do you just go whole hog and see if you can score a KO before the end of the fight?
Here's one of the things you have to love about the game of Leo Santa Cruz. He doesn't know how to do that. Leo Santa Cruz only knows how to fight safely, in his definition of fighting safely, is keeping his hands up in a defensively responsible position while still throwing about 80 punches around, trying to break his opponent down.
In his estimation, the best defense is proper hand position and a lot of offense. But yeah, you can really see how those body shots are really adding up on Rivera at this point. Every time they're in the pocket, he's covering up his midsection.
Rivera keeps leaping into Leo Santa Cruz's punches. I mean, he ate a few of them directly on the face.
Yeah, he's trying to bob and weave his way inside, and it's just not working for him either. I don't know if it's footwork. I don't know. I mean, part of it's the lack of setup, absolutely. But I can kind of see what he's trying to do, but it's just not working, and he doesn't seem to have a backup plan. And now he's got some pretty serious swelling around his right eye.
Is the leaping due to the fact that he doesn't have the reach on him, and so he's trying to make up for it, or is it to put more power behind his punches? What is the plan when you're deciding to leap at the guy?
It's either or. I mean, you can generate more power if you time a leap correctly and go for it, but a lot of times you're also doing that because you're trying to compensate for a differential in height and reach. And I think for Rivera, who's really running out of options here, he's trying to do
swinging
all the
wild
above.
almost at this point. I mean, really, the whole leaping thing, I think it's just, a fighter expressing their spiritual connection to a breaching humpback whale.
Go on.
Sorry, I've been sitting on that line ever since I watched some of the workout footage from Cain Velasquez, and his leaping left hook, he literally not just jumps into it, he throws his head and his chin back up in the air like a whale breaching.
Terrific.
It's the funniest thing I've seen.
All right, I'm going to have to look that up now. But if you notice in between rounds, they showed footage, again, of Leo Santa Cruz in the corner with his father who trains him. And Santa Cruz's father just showing no fear of the Rivera camp, looking at what they're doing, showing Leo Santa Cruz what combinations he wants him to throw by literally shadow boxing in front of him.
Yeah, that's a confident man.
And Rivera, again, starting the round off, throwing kind of everything he has, but he's not landing.
Yeah, and then he's going to take the next minute and a half off.
And come back with some whale breaches.
Yep.
That an official thing now? We're going with whale breaches?
Why not?
And here's the thing about Leo Santa Cruz. Leo Santa Cruz has one loss on his record. That was to the outstanding Carl Frampton in a 2016 Fight of the Year. In my opinion, it was the Fight of the Year. And Santa Cruz's answer for how he was going to fight him in the rematch was, I'm going to have to train harder and be able to throw more punches. And that's what he did, and he won. And I had him winning a pretty clear decision, largely based on the fact that while Frampton was the bigger puncher, Santa Cruz's volume was just outstanding. And he landed about 100 more punches.
Yeah, here he's, again, pretty clearly doubled up Rivera. They're at 250 to 225, give or take. Or 125, excuse me. I don't know what Santa Cruz's conditioning program is for his punch count, but it is working. I mean, this is a relatively absurd pace. And again,
1,008 punches thrown, 262 landed. That's incredible.
That's beyond absurd. I mean, it's hard enough to keep something like that up when all you've got is a heavy bag in front of you, much less another fighter.
And again, Rivera getting tagged at will by that right hand.
He's just walking into it at this point. I think Rivera's thought process at this point is, okay, it hurts, but it's not going to finish me. I'm just going to move forward and eat it.
I can see criticism of Santa Cruz coming out of this that he couldn't finish Rivera. But again, Rivera's never been finished. And there's been some talk that since Santa Cruz has moved up in weight, he's not as effective of a puncher as he used to be. But I just don't see that argument because, again, if you look at the level of opposition he's fought, Abner Mares, Carl Frampton, Rafael Rivera, who not a world-class fighter, but obviously a very tough fighter who had never been stopped to this point. These are guys who don't get knocked out.
You're probably dealing with a combination of him coming up in weight and not having the same oomph relative to his opposition, and him fighting guys who, just like you said, are not known for getting finished.
Yeah, Abner Mares. The only time Abner Mares ever got stopped was on one of the most perfect body punches I've ever seen thrown, and that doesn't happen very often, folks.
We are in the championship round now, round 11. As they show a replay from the previous round where Leo Santa Cruz gets into a firefight and then just smiles at him.
When he gets into the firefight, he doesn't even get hit clean. Like, even in these, you kind of refer to it as a 50-50 exchange position. They're not 50-50 exchanges.
Since round 6, really, other than that opening flurry in the 8th round, Rivera's only landed what Santa Cruz has been willing to give him.
Yeah, it's just getting worse for him. Oh, yeah, his punching technique is going out the window too on Rivera. I mean, you look at some of these replays, he's not turning his knuckles into it. He's almost landing with kind of cuffing strikes with the palm.
A pawing shot there from Rivera does nothing.
Yeah, he didn't even have the energy to come out with his opening flurry for the 11th round. He's basically cooked at this point.
Leo Santa Cruz jabbing, moving him around the ring.
Yeah, he's even steering him well at this point, which he was not doing earlier. It was a lot of reactive and predictive footwork out of Santa Cruz. At this point, he's just driving Rivera wherever he wants him to go.
And the funny part about when we get to these types of fights where the score differential is obviously, at least should be, very wide, although this will probably be a unanimous decision for Canelo.
I don't know why anyone would sign to fight him at this point. I genuinely don't. Like, you're not going to win that decision pretty clearly, even if you do actually earn the decision.
But not to get away from the initial point, but when you get to this point in a fight where the scorecards are hopeless, or at least should be, guys tend to dial it back, and rather than throw, anywhere at this weight class from 60 to 100 punches in a round, they stop that and they just try to find the home run swing when, one, they're not a home run swing kind of fighter, and two, the guy they're fighting is not somebody who goes out from one shot.
Yeah, Santa Cruz seems to be taking this round relative to his normal output off a little bit.
Well, it was interesting because Rivera had Santa Cruz up against the ropes there, but he didn't take advantage of it at all. He just had him there, didn't press the advantage, and eventually Leo Santa Cruz walked off the ropes.
Leo Santa Cruz actually turned to southpaw for a moment there, and as soon as he gave Rivera that look, Rivera looked confused, and his reaction was to back off. That's a tired, beaten, and confused fighter, quite frankly.
Yeah.
Leo Santa Cruz threw everything but the kitchen sink at him in that last exchange. And I'll tell you what.
That's only because the kitchen sink has not yet arrived at the arena.
I was going to say, Rivera ate every single one of those punches like a hungry man at a buffet. Just took them all right in the face.
Yeah, he's not going to be eating much after this fight.
We have an advertisement for Anthony Durrell versus Avni Vildermir, and that's going to be on, I believe, Fox Sports 1 for the super middleweight title.
FS1.
Yeah, that's the thing.
Yeah, everybody thought Anthony Durrell was not the brother to watch initially, when he and his brother Andre both turned pro. Andre won a world championship first, but Anthony has really turned into a very complete fighter and really broken out of the secondary role that they assigned him before he even got going. He's become very good.
All right, we are in our last round here.
And you won't see Leo Santa Cruz slow down, more than likely.
Almost at all, yeah. I mean, again, last round, the 11th was kind of his equivalent of taking a round off, and he still was, 60, 80 punches, somewhere in that range?
He's landed 162 more punches.
And then you see one official scorecard from Hazard, where other than rounds 1 and 9, he's given every single round to Leo Santa Cruz.
I'm kind of surprised he gave 9 to Rivera.
That was the hot start round, and I guess that was enough. Leo Santa Cruz has thrown 1,168 punches.
I'm not sure I will throw 1,168 punches in any 2-month period of time.
If I dream about doing that, I get tired.
Yeah, my shoulders are going to hurt tomorrow just from watching his output.
Now explain this to me, Pat. Again, Rivera had Leo Santa Cruz up against the ropes. They were exchanging, and then instead of I understand the concept of resetting, but he backs up, resets, and that allows Leo Santa Cruz to walk right off the ropes again.
You know what the funny part was to me was Leo Santa Cruz went to throw a left hook to his body, and his hand actually got caught behind the rope tie, which is the long strand you see that holds the ropes in place. His hand actually got caught in that. So there was a wide open shot for Rivera to throw his best right hand, and he didn't take it.
Yeah, he's pretty clearly, again, I don't know if it's mental fatigue, physical fatigue, a combination of the two, but he is not as sharp as he needs to be if he's going to pull this out in a miracle fashion. I
mean, shouldn't Rafael Rivera have been using some feints there to box Leo Santa Cruz in, keep him on the ropes, even if he's got to reset and lay off the punching? Again, use your footwork, use your feints, keep him where you can keep him against the ropes.
At this point in the fight, I don't think Santa Cruz was going to bite on a feint from him because he hasn't really done anything to make Santa Cruz do that. Feints are used to get reads, and you see guys feint very early in a fight. That's why the first 1-2 rounds usually have less action. It's guys feinting to draw reactions, things of that nature. Rivera never established that he was able to do that, and so it's very unlikely that if he did try to feint, Santa Cruz would bite on anything at this point. What he needed to do was throw everything he had at him to keep him there and push, shove, elbow, shoulder, do what you have to do to keep him positioned there. And now we're seeing Roadhouse.
That was
to rewatch that movie.
That was a fun exchange there to ride out the rest of the round. That's how you do it, ladies and gentlemen. For all the MMA fighters and boxers at home watching it, when you've got 10 seconds to go out like these two just did. That was marvelous.
Well,
did Leo Santa Cruz hit 1,200 punches thrown? I really want to know.
I'd be shocked if he didn't, especially based on that last flurry. He was pretty close. Also, if I might, as kind of a tactician as well as a fight fan, if you're winning by as wide enough margin as Leo Santa Cruz was, don't fight like that for the last 10 seconds. That's just tempting. You're just tempting fate. Don't do it.
But as a fight fan and a producer, I say you should absolutely fight like that.
You can do it if you're Leo Santa Cruz. That's why he's a TV fighter.
Don't do it if you're the Korean Zombie.
Terrific. All right, we'll see how much Canelo won this fight by.
Yeah. I'm genuinely waiting for one of those judges to have the pre-filled out scorecard for the Canelo fight in a few weeks that he just turns in for this one by mistake. So Jimmy Lennon Jr. reads out some stupid score for Canelo.
Judge Clucky McChicken has this fight 117-111. He scores for Canelo.
Wait, just because that might be the one thing that would get even Jimmy Lennon Jr. to turn around and slap somebody.
You know, if people listening to our coverage of these fights get nothing else, at least we've got the ongoing gimmick of every fight is won by Canelo, which I'm frankly proud of.
In boxing, it's Canelo. In MMA, it's still for Leonard Garcia.
Is that still a thing, or has that been forgotten?
No, Leonard Garcia is now
I could
that
bring it
guy
back if I wanted to.
Leonard Garcia is now the guy in bare knuckle fighting championships.
Good for him.
Where he also wins by crappy split decision.
I've meant to watch that, and I just never get around to it.
My advice, if you want to watch it, cherry pick the fights you consume, because there's a lot of just guys who don't know what they're doing. There's a lot of guys which leads to either something interesting to watch, or more often than not, something that is just like you watch it and go, why in the world did I watch this? I could watch a rough equivalent of this, down at my local bar.
Yeah, I need to find out where they're doing bare knuckle fighting and watch it. That sounds fantastic.
It's on pay-per-view, Mark. They air it. It's literally a league called Bare Knuckle Fighting Championships.
I wasn't aware that. I knew there was a league. I was not aware that it was on pay-per-view.
Oh, it's on pay-per-view. The last show was main evented by Joey Beltran and Tony Kryptonite Lopez.
Ugh.
No, there have been others since then.
No, that was the rematch. That was.
Oh, they did the rematch, really?
Yeah.
Good for those guys doing that to themselves again.
Rowdy Beck Rawlings is the female champion in one division.
Which really ought to tell you all you need to know about how crappy the talent pool is.
And yeah, Leonard Garcia fights there. The guy from Tough Let Me Bang Bro, he's one of them.
Got smoked. That was the funniest thing in the world.
Oh, I have to watch that then. We see the replay here, though, of that last exchange in the fight where each guy just hockey fought each other. Fantastic.
All right, Pat, I think we need to do some TV Party Tonight extras of these bare knuckle fights, if we can find video of them online.
There's one, Chris Lytle had one and just destroyed this poor guy. He was in there with body shots.
I was going to say, something tells me that this isn't going to look like the John L. Sullivan era of bare knuckle fighting.
God, I wish.
And it's decision time as the cards are read, which, I can only assume Canelo will step in, have his hand raised.
collect his brand new belt.
Canelo
with the run-in.
All right, we actually have we have a unanimous decision victory here for Leo Santa Cruz. So justice has been served. Boxing is alive yet another day. All right, let's do plugs, ladies and gentlemen. Fun fight, by the way. I enjoy doing these commentaries for Fight Night here on Fox.
And maybe we found somebody that Mark will watch consistently. And look at that, 1273 thrown from Leo Santa.
Good for him, man. I was kind of hoping he'd hit 13, actually. That final flurry.
Next, now, what do you got going on tomorrow night, Robert? I see that there's a fight night.
Tomorrow night, I will be covering UFC on ESPN 1. This is their debut on ESPN proper, if you exclude the prelims from the first ESPN Plus card. Which I'm not sure you should, because that featured Donald Cerrone getting a pretty solid win, returning to lightweight, and Donald Cerrone always has a good fight. But for our first card on ESPN proper, we have a main event that's probably going to suck. If it's not over quickly, it's going to suck. It's Cain Velasquez and his breaching whale training techniques, returning for the first time in 2.5 years, give or take, against Francis Ngannou, whose entire hope for this fight lands on timing an uppercut in the first exchange when Cain is still very stiff and ducks in for a double leg from too far outside.
That's a real fight, huh?
It's scheduled. That's all I can say. Whether or not it sticks together, I mean, last week we lost the only fight on that card I wanted to see 2 hours before the first prelim started. I was so pissed about that. I was so pissed, and then I got trolled by God. I walked into another room where a television was on, and there was a commercial for to be part of like a class action lawsuit if you'd had complications from hernia surgery.
Is it the mesh hernia surgery one? Oh, God, they roll that all the time. That's great.
I kid you not. I'm pissed off. I'm pissed about Robert Whittaker falling out of that fight because of a hernia. I walk into that room, and there's a commercial for hernia surgery. I was livid, and then I had to laugh just because, again, God was having a laugh at my expense, so I can appreciate that. Anyway, the card for ESPN is actually pretty solid. You have Paul Felder and James Vick. You have Jimmy Rivera and Aljamain Sterling. You have the UFC debut of Kron Gracie in a fight that is probably going to be very weird, but Kron Gracie is the only Gracie worth watching in the MMA context, and even that's a little dubious. Vicente Luque and Brian Barberina is going to fly under a lot of radars, but that's a good fight. We did, however, have 3 people miss weight for tomorrow's card.
Right on, ESPN.
We had, let's see, I can't remember if it was Lopez or Bermudez who missed. Bermudez missed pretty bad. Bermudez weighed 140 for a bantamweight fight. Henan Barao missed weight again. And Jessica Penne, I believe, missed weight for a strawweight fight. But as of right now, the whole card is intact. So if you are interested, you can follow my coverage in the MMA Zone of 411 Mania. You can also find me at the moment on Fridays covering Impact Wrestling in the MMA Zone of 411 Mania.
Oh, you poor soul.
I've come to the conclusion that every episode of Impact is basically the same, and it's just kind of a consistent about 6.5 out of 10. So I can live with it until Larry's back in action. Plus, my paycheck just gets fatter courtesy of Impact Wrestling. So
yeah, you're about the only one who can say that.
That's probably true. And then let me see. Mark and I will be reviewing Alita Battle Angel on Tuesday, which will be, I haven't seen it yet, but we will be talking about it. So tune in, see if I decide that there's a Robert Rodriguez movie I actually kind of enjoy, because those are few and far between, quite frankly. And then a couple of weeks I will have coverage of another UFC Fight Night. I believe they're in Wichita. Are they in Wichita for this one? No, they're in Prague.
When is the John Jones fight?
Jones versus Smith is scheduled for UFC 235 on March 2nd.
Yes.
That's a really good card, actually. You have Jones and Smith, Tyron Woodley and Kamaru Usman, the UFC debut of Ben Askren against Robbie Lawler. It's a solid card.
All right. Pat, I understand you won some money over the Super Bowl. Why don't you tell people where they can find recordings about you crowing about it?
Yeah, you can go on the Radulich and Broadcasting Network and listen to the final episode for this season of Pigskin Pick'em, Yahoo Pigskin Pick'em, that myself and Jesse Starcher participated in, as I not only had the overall points win in the league, but also the best overall Pick'em record. I'd like to thank Legalized Sports Gambling in the state for supplementing my income and paying for something I've wanted for my entire life, a lazy boy.
Everyone should have a lazy boy at one point in their life. They're great.
Yes, so I'd like to thank Tom Brady, Bill Belichick, Trey Hightower, and that defense for doing a tremendous job in buying me a lazy boy.
Really, you should thank the LA Rams for overperforming because they were never going to win that game.
Also true. I'd like to thank them as well. You can actually, Monday night, I'll be recording an episode of Source Material here on the Radulich and Broadcasting Network, along with Jesse Starcher. We will be talking Emerald Dawn.
Emerald Twilight.
Emerald Twilight. Excuse me, I got mixed up. So Emerald Twilight, for those who are not aware of what it was, is a somewhat controversial storyline launched by DC Comics that ran through Green Lantern number 48 through 50. And this storyline led to me writing my first ever letter to a publishing company. It was not a nice letter. It may have stopped me from reading DC printed material for a while. So I'm gonna have a lot to say in this one. For those
Is this the one where Kyle Rayner finds the remains of his girlfriend in a fridge?
No. This is much different than that.
I believe Green Lantern blows up Coast City and then takes down
No.
That's not this either?
Green Lantern never blew up Coast City. The preamble to this is that Mongol and Cyborg Superman use a series of bombs to destroy Coast City to, as part of a step process, turn Earth into a new war world. And Hal Jordan, who is the defender of Coast City as Green Lantern, comes back to find his city completely destroyed and everybody dead. And yeah,
doesn't he wind up snapping and just like collecting other lanterns' power rings and then?
Yeah.
Doesn't the whole thing also wind up being just like a giant, like, I hate to say, it was all a dream type scenario, but doesn't it wind up being something like that too?
No.
Okay.
Green Lantern snap, Green Lantern go crazy, Green Lantern murder a lot of other Green Lanterns. 8-year-old me is reading this and fuming.
There's a famously great cover in the middle of this where you have Hal Jordan looking oh so crazy with all of these rings on his fingers. So
we'll say that's a great cover.
Yeah. All right. So this week on the Radulich Broadcasting Network, we have myself and Alexis Hana and Jesse Starcher. We did a episode on DC Looney Tunes 2, but we also took a time out to go look back at a bunch of seemingly racist Looney Tunes cartoons and commenting on them. And I didn't think there was a problem with them, but do you ever want, but if you enjoy watching me make Jesse squirm, this is a great episode.
We got to carry over a little bit of that into into our TV party
for
the Punisher season 2.
Rob mentioned Alita Battle Angel on the 20th.
Oh, yeah, I forgot Punisher season 2. Yeah, last week, Mark and I did that along with Jesse. I enjoyed our discussion about the series. I wish the season had been better, and I'm sad that Bernthald's take on the Punisher is ending, but I found my silver lining in that reality. So,
on the 20th of February, we'll welcome you back to Avantasia, and then finally, after many delays, and despite the fact that I keep nodding off during it, Andrew Graham and his wife will be joining me for a TV party as we discuss The Crown Season 2.
So, Mark, you have to just talk about the dreams you had while you should have been watching the television show.
I'm going to talk about the Wikipedia summaries.
And I'm gonna put this out there because Mark has been looking for another show to add to the Radulich Broadcasting Network, and he's asked me repeatedly if I have anything I would like to record. So I'm gonna put this out there for any person who is interested or remotely interested in strongman competition.
Ooh.
I want to do a podcast revolving around the World's Strongest Man competition, its history, its eras, its stars, etc., etc.
Ooh, what day?
Unfortunately, it is probably on Sundays.
If we can work out the timing, I might be down to appear on that, because I find strongman competitions fascinating. I actually remember vividly how I got into it too. I was in a hotel room and just marathoned. I forget what year it was. I was a teenager or so at the time, and it was Mariusz Pudzianowski's like second or third win in a row, and watching that man just decimate the competition was fascinating to me.
All right, well,
so that's one fish on the line.
There we go. We'll work that out offline. Okay, as far as what our next commentary is, like I said, we might be doing one for Sean Porter on March 9th. We will definitely do one on May 4th for Canelo versus Daniel Jacobs. So go ahead and check those out.
Look, I'll spoil it. Canelo by unanimous decision.
Well, of course, but we still have to actually watch it. Also, by
I
that
don't know
point,
why they bother with the fight. They should just come out, do the ring announcements, and then have the announcement of Canelo wins via unanimous decision, and everyone just goes home and saves each other the brain trauma.
you can also check out on April 11th, we will be doing a TV party for WrestleMania weekend. I'll actually be in New York for WrestleMania. I'll be at NXT Live. I'll be at WrestleMania. I'll be at the Bruce Pritchard show. I'll be all over the place with my friends Pat and Freak Boy John Brodigan. So I'm sure I'll have a lot to talk about on
wow,
April 11th.
three conservatives together in one place in the state of New York.
A time will be had. All right.
I hope he brings out JBL then for the surprise guest or one of the surprise guests. We can really get him going.
That'd be fantastic. All right. Before my voice gives out any further, I want to thank Pat and Robert for spending the evening with me talking boxing. We'll be back again soon. Be well, be safe, and behave.